Y'all, I did it. I know you haven't seen me in a while. I'm Caitlin. I'm reading what I own. And if I had made updates through the month of March, every week would have been me just saying, didn't finish anything this week, didn't finish anything this week, didn't finish anything this week. And it was so frustrating because I was so close. I was within 3 books of finishing my goal of reading 25 books that I own before I could buy any more books. And yet, I was struggling because I had to read some other books for the BookTube Nonfiction Prize, and I was really pushing through them. In fact, I did actually end up purchasing a book before I met my goal. It was this book, When the Clock Broke, Con Man Conspiracies and How America Cracked Up in the Early 1990s by John Gans, and I was on a very long wait list at my library, and I had to finish it by the end of March for my BookTube Nonfiction Prize judging. That's why I purchased it. It's not going to be staying on my shelves, not going to be staying on my unread shelves, so I am going to give myself a little grace on this. But you are here because I did it. I finished right at the end of March when I finally was done with my reading for the BookTube Nonfiction Prize. I also ended up finishing several books I had been in progress on for more than a month. The first of those I picked up because I was honestly just looking for a book that I owned that I could also get on Libby as an audiobook. And the first one that came up was The Story of More by Hope Jahren. This book I picked up out of a little free library because I recognized the author. Little did I know she is from Minnesota originally. And honestly, I really enjoyed this book because of that. I cannot say that it would work as well for everyone else. I have a few minor quibbles about some of the things she was doing, but in general, it was like just my people speaking to me. After I finished The Story of More, I found a book that I had been 40% into in February and then misplaced and could not find for an entire month. So finally at the end of March, I found Dear Galaxy by Paige Lavoie, and I was able to finish this. And honestly, when I had been reading it back in February, I was really struggling with it. It is a little more juvenile than my adult reading tastes, and there were some things that felt a little awkward or frustrating to me personally. But let me tell you, nothing is better for enjoying this book than taking an entire month off while you're reading dense nonfiction, some of which you have to drag yourself through. So I had a good time, and I'll be happy to pass this on to an actual teenager, which is the target market for this book. Finally, at the beginning of April, I finished Passenger by Alexandra Bracken. There was a point at which I thought my last 2 books would be Passenger and Wayfarer, which is up here still unread, but I was really struggling with the first part of Passenger. The pacing is just very slow, except for in the romance department where it's bizarrely fast. It is YA, and I have to sometimes remind myself that that can be something that happens with books written for teens. I really strongly thought about not finishing this book and this series, and what sold me on it was, one, that this was intended to be used for a couple different reading challenges I was doing at the time, and 2, that I read a bunch of reviews and several people said that it picked up a lot at the 40% mark. So I told myself, if you just finish it, if you remember some of the other books that you have read for this challenge where you were struggling and then you ultimately loved them, just finish this book and then you can decide about the series. Now, how do I feel about reading Wayfarer after this series? Hilariously, I'm in a weird place where I thought I was going to for sure DNF the series, but this could be a little spoilery, I'm not sure. But anyway, one of the things that frustrated me was the dynamic between the 2 main characters because of this sort of really fast-track love that they're on. And at the beginning of the second book, they are not together in time and space, and therefore I maybe will like it more. I'm not sure. So I'm going to give myself maybe 50 pages of that one, and then I'm going to decide whether to just pass it on unfinished. Those are my final 3 books. Let me actually grab so I can color. Hold on. Those are my final 3 books. I can color in the top of my thermometer. I didn't even have to DNF anything right at the end, and I have finished or DNF'd 25 of the books that I own for this project. I am really proud of myself. Now, what are you thinking? What am I doing next? One of my friends, also, I just want to say thank you so much for those of you who have commented here or have reached out and let me know that you're watching these videos. I appreciate that so much. It made me just push on through to get to the end of this, to remember that you guys are following this progress. One of my friends asked me if I could do reviews. So I think I'm going to do a quick little summary video of all the books that I read and kind of place them in categories. And then if you want a more in-depth review of any of them, please ask. In terms of reading what I own, I have literal stacks of library books. I was supposed to limit myself to only checking out 5 library books until I finished this, and that did not happen. I have like 45 library books checked out right now. So I'm obviously going through a huge library binge, but I am going to try to keep reading at a slower pace with fewer restrictions of books that I own throughout the rest of the year, or getting rid of them, making sure that they are going to homes that will like them more than I will if I am not reading them. I am planning to do this challenge again. It'll start up in November of this year, and I am hoping that I will take fewer than 5 months to complete it this time. It took me almost half a year to read 25 books that I own. So that's the scoop. I'll see y'all later. And now I'm going to pick up this giant stack of books. Bye. A giant stack of books just fell into a giant box that had other boxes on top of it. I'll be right back.